After almost 2 years since its announcement, Resident Evil 9 is finally here. As a huge fan of the series and genre as a whole, I was super excited going into it, and honestly, it has become one of my favorites in the whole franchise. Between the return of Raccoon City, the atmosphere, and contrast of survival horror and action, this game really captures what makes RE so special. In fact, I would rank it just under the classics in my book. So without too many spoilers, let's get right into it. Starting with the story, the game takes us to multiple locations from the Wrenwood Hotel to the Rhodes Hill Chronic Care Center, a medical facility that plays a major role in the story. Rhodes Hill is run by Victor Gideon, a former Umbrella researcher and our new antagonist. This new location definitely has that classic Resident Evil vibe. It's unsettling and filled with narrow hallways and rooms that constantly make you wonder what's waiting for you around that next corner. As the story progresses, the game eventually takes us back to one of the most iconic locations in the franchise, Raccoon City. Seeing the return of Raccoon City in the RPD to me was a very emotional moment. It has so much history in the series, and revisiting it in this condition was very emotional and nostalgic. The story also dives deeper into the lore of the universe with references to the Connections and Oswell Spencer. This time around, the game follows our two main protagonists, newcomer Grace Ashcroft and returning bad boy Leon Kennedy. The narrative mixes classic survival horror with action-heavy moments depending on which character you're playing. Grace's sections lean more into the classic survival horror elements, while Leon's sections feel very close to the RE4 remake and RE6. It never drags, and switching between Grace and Leon almost reminds me of Code Veronica and helps keep things fresh. Even though my personal favorite characters Jill and Chris aren't here, I feel that Leon will always be a nice return. Moving on to the gameplay itself, this is another area the game really shines. The combat feels satisfying and the pacing of the game is really solid. It balances exploration, combat, and story progression in a way that never feels slow or repetitive in my opinion. The puzzles in this game were also pretty enjoyable. While not being as prominent as some of the classic games in the series, the puzzles that are here still break up the gameplay really nicely. Another big highlight of Resident Evil 9 was the character and enemy design. I love the return of classic enemies like the zombies, lickers, and Plant 43. Seeing their return brings back that nostalgic feeling that us old RE heads know and love. The atmosphere is also supported by the game's presentation. Visually speaking, in my opinion, this is the best that Resident Evil has ever looked so far. The environments are incredibly detailed with fantastic lighting and effects. And the sound design and soundtrack are also excellent. The game does a great job building tension through audio, and like many other great Resident Evil games, the save room was perfect, giving you that real moment to breathe. And while we're on the topic of audio, the voice acting is another strong point in this game too. The performances are very believable, with Grace's emotions really showing up well, and Leon always being that Leon that we all know and love.
I think I want a second opinion.
Now, while this game is a near-perfect experience, I do have some very minor nitpicks of my own. One thing that I personally wish was incorporated was a dodge mechanic. Maybe not so overly dramatic like Silent Hill F, but more similar to Jill in Resident Evil 3 Remake. I think having that option, especially used with Leon, could have added another layer to the gameplay. My other tiny gripe is more of a minor lore complaint. And before you guys get all crazy on me in the comments, I know that RE lore has always been a bit messy. It's just that some parts of the story make things a bit more confusing when you think back to RE2, especially involving Claire and Marvin. But while confusing, it is just a small nitpick that I have. But nitpicks aside, overall though, I absolutely loved Resident Evil 9. With the return to Raccoon City, strong atmosphere, fun combat, characters, and the nice mix of classic survival horror and action all come together to create an unforgettable experience. Resident Evil 9 has definitely become one of my favorites in the series, and I really can't wait to replay this one. But those are just some of my honest thoughts, and let me know what you guys think about this game in the comments. And if you've stuck around this long, thank you for watching my review of Resident Evil Requiem.